The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, nestled between spam and retail promotions. Fiona, I need to talk to you. It's important. No explanation, no pleasantries, just my sister's name at the bottom. Classic Vanessa. I stared at those words for a full minute before closing my laptop. 2 years of silence, and now she needed to talk? After everything that had happened between us? I poured another cup of coffee, watching steam curl into the morning air as I tried to calm the immediate tightness in my chest. My phone rang. Vanessa, her timing precise as always. Fiona Harlow speaking, I answered, my professional tone a shield. Fi, it's me. Her voice sounded strained, thinner than I remembered. I need to see you. I closed my eyes, memories flooding back, Vanessa's tearful plea at our mother's funeral, the series of loans that were never repaid, the broken promises, the mounting tension that culminated in that final, explosive argument that had severed our last fragile connection. Why now, Vanessa? The question came out sharper than I'd intended. I'm sick, Fi. Her voice cracked. Really sick. Cancer. I need surgery, and I need help. The word hung between us. Cancer. Our mother's ghost, returned to haunt another generation. How much? I asked, already knowing where this was heading. 20,000. The number landed like a stone. My insurance won't cover the specialized treatment. I've got nowhere else to turn. $20,000. The exact amount I'd been saving for a down payment on my first home. Money that represented years of careful budgeting and overtime shifts at the law firm. I need time to think about this, I said finally. I don't have time, Fi. Her voice sharpened with desperation. The surgery is scheduled for next month. Please, you're my only hope. After we hung up, I sat motionless at my kitchen table, staring at nothing. Vanessa had always been the hurricane to my steady rain, chaotic, unpredictable, leaving destruction in her wake. Yet she was my sister, my only remaining family after our parents' deaths. I thought of the voice recording app I'd installed on my phone after our last financial dispute. The one my therapist had suggested to help me maintain boundaries by documenting our interactions. I hadn't deleted it, though we hadn't spoken in years. Almost unconsciously, my thumb hovered over the icon. Then, with a decisive tap, I activated it. Just in case. 3 days later, I sat across from Vanessa at a quiet corner table in Mercado's, the cafe halfway between my apartment and her place. She looked different, thinner, paler, her usually meticulous appearance slightly undone. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, lending credibility to her story. Thanks for meeting me, she said, cupping her hands around her untouched tea. I nodded, retrieving my phone and discreetly starting the recording app beneath the table. Tell me about the diagnosis. Vanessa launched into details. Stage 3 ovarian cancer, the same that took our mother. The specialized clinic in Chicago that offered a revolutionary treatment. The urgency, the fear, the financial strain. I've already liquidated everything I can, she said, pushing a folder across the table. Here's all the documentation, the diagnosis, the treatment plan, the costs. I opened the folder, scanning medical reports emblazoned with official hospital letterheads, detailed invoices, a treatment schedule. Everything looked legitimate. 20,000 is a lot, Vanessa. I know. Her eyes, Mom's eyes, filled with tears. I wouldn't ask if I had any other option. You know that, right? Did I know that? The weight of our complicated history pressed down between us. If I do this, I said carefully, I need guarantees. A written agreement. Repayment terms. She nodded quickly. Of course, anything. I'm not asking for charity, Fi. Just help to save my life. The words pierced something deep inside me. Despite everything, could I really refuse? That night, I called my closest friend, Diana. She seemed sincere, I said, staring at the ceiling of my bedroom. And the documentation looks real. But? Diana prompted, knowing me too well. But it's Vanessa, I sighed. Every time I've trusted her, I've regretted it. Then don't do it, Diana said simply. You're not responsible for saving her. She's my sister, I whispered. And if she really is sick, then help on your terms. Protect yourself. Pay the clinic directly, not her. Get everything in writing. Diana's advice echoed in my mind as I drafted a loan agreement the next day. When Vanessa agreed to all terms without hesitation, including my stipulation that payment would go directly to the medical facility, a tiny flame of hope flickered that perhaps this time would be different. A week later, I transferred the entire amount to the account Vanessa provided, designated for Chicago Memorial Hospital's Advanced Oncology Center. The transfer confirmation stared back at me from my banking app, my savings now depleted. Thank you, Vanessa had whispered when I called to tell her it was done. You won't regret this, Fi. I promise. Words she'd spoken so many times before. 2 weeks passed with no communication from Vanessa. I tried not to worry, assuming she was busy with pre-surgical preparations. Then 3 weeks. Then a month. I called the oncology center in Chicago to check on her progress. I'm sorry, the receptionist said after searching their records, we don't have a patient by that name. Ice spread through my veins. Could you check again? Vanessa Harlow. She was scheduled for surgery last week. Another search. Another negative. Perhaps she's using her married name? I suggested, desperate. I've checked all recent surgical patients. There's no one matching that description. I hung up, my hand trembling, and immediately dialed Vanessa's number. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No response. I emailed. Nothing. 3 days later, while scrolling mindlessly through social media trying to distract myself from my growing dread, a photo stopped my heart. Vanessa, smiling broadly, standing next to a gleaming new BMW convertible, red as fresh blood. The caption read, New Beginnings. #blessed #dreamcar. The timestamp was yesterday. My $20,000, meant for life-saving surgery, had bought my sister a luxury car instead. The realization came not as a shock but as a confirmation of my worst fears, fears I'd pushed aside in the name of sisterhood and compassion. I stared at the photo until my eyes burned, noting her healthy complexion, the designer sunglasses, the careless joy in her expression. No sign of illness. No sign of remorse. I picked up my phone and opened the recording app, the evidence of her elaborately constructed lie preserved in digital clarity. Then I called my lawyer. The silence outside the courtroom pressed against my eardrums as I waited for Vanessa to arrive. I'd spent weeks preparing for this moment, steeling myself against the inevitable confrontation. Are you sure you want to do this? Diana asked, sitting beside me on the bench, her hand steady on my arm. It's not too late to drop the case. I met her gaze. She stole $20,000, Diana. She faked having cancer, the same cancer that killed our mother. That's not something I can forgive. Diana nodded, understanding in her eyes. Just remember why you're here. This isn't about punishing Vanessa. It's about justice. Justice, I repeated, the word tasting strange in my mouth. Was that truly what I wanted? Or was it vindication? Revenge? The line between them had blurred in the weeks since discovering Vanessa's betrayal. The click of heels on marble announced her arrival. Vanessa walked down the corridor, head high, her lawyer trailing beside her. She wore an expensive cream pantsuit I'd never seen before, another probable purchase from my stolen funds. Our eyes met, and for a brief moment, I glimpsed something like regret flicker across her face. Then her expression hardened, and she looked away. "All rise," the bailiff announced as the judge entered. What followed was a clinical dissection of betrayal. My lawyer presented the recorded conversation, the falsified medical documents, the bank transfers, and the social media evidence of the BMW purchase. Vanessa's attorney attempted to spin a narrative about misunderstandings and miscommunications, claiming the money had been a gift between sisters, not a loan for medical treatment. Then came Vanessa's testimony. I watched as she wove a new fiction, tears strategically falling as she described her desperate financial situation, how she'd been too ashamed to tell me the truth about needing help with debts, how she'd panicked and invented the cancer story. "I never meant to hurt my sister," she said, voice quivering perfectly. "I was desperate and scared. I made a terrible mistake." The judge's face remained impassive. "Ms. Harlow, the court has heard the recording of your conversation with your sister. You explicitly stated you needed the money for cancer treatment, the same cancer that took your mother's life. That goes beyond a mistake. That is deliberate fraud." Vanessa's facade cracked, just slightly. "Your Honor, Furthermore," the judge continued, "the documentation you provided was falsified. You went to considerable lengths to deceive your sister. This court takes a very dim view of such actions." I sat perfectly still, watching as years of Vanessa's manipulation techniques failed in the face of irrefutable evidence. The judgment came swiftly, full restitution of the $20,000, plus legal fees and additional damages for emotional distress. The BMW would be sold to satisfy the judgment if necessary. As we exited the courtroom, Vanessa caught my arm. "You recorded me?" Her voice was low, venomous. "Your own sister?" I met her gaze steadily. "Yes. Because I knew who you really were, even when I wanted to believe otherwise. You've ruined me, Fiona. I hope you're satisfied." I shook my head. "No, Vanessa. You ruined yourself. I just made sure you couldn't take me down with you this time." She released my arm as if burned. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," I said quietly. "This is the last time I'll allow you to hurt me." As Diana drove me home, the weight of the day settled across my shoulders. "You did the right thing," she said, eyes on the road. She needed to face consequences. I nodded, watching raindrops race down the passenger window. "I know. But it doesn't feel like victory." "It's not supposed to," Diana replied softly. "It's closure." Closure. The word echoed in my mind as I prepared for bed that night. Was that what I'd achieved? The legal battle was over, but the emotional aftermath was just beginning. I'd exposed my sister's duplicity to the world, forced her to face consequences, but at what cost to my own heart? My phone pinged with a text message. "Vanessa. They're taking the car tomorrow. I hope you're happy." I stared at the words, feeling nothing but a profound emptiness. Finally, I typed back. "I didn't want your car, Vanessa. I wanted a sister I could trust." Then I blocked her number, placed the phone on my nightstand, and lay in the darkness, listening to my own breathing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new beginnings. Tonight, I would allow myself to mourn what might have been, the sisterhood we should have had, the trust that never took root. And perhaps, in that morning, I might finally find peace. The sun hadn't yet breached the horizon when I awoke the next morning, my dreams fractured with images of Vanessa's face as the judge delivered the verdict. I made coffee in the pre-dawn stillness, watching the city slowly stir to life beyond my kitchen window. My doorbell rang at precisely 7:30, startling me. Through the peephole, I saw Diana, holding a bakery box and wearing a determined expression. "You shouldn't be alone today," she said when I opened the door. I brought cinnamon rolls. The good ones, from Martinelli's. The familiar scent of sugar and spice filled my apartment as I let her in, gratitude warming my chest despite the emotional exhaustion that had settled in my bones. "You didn't have to come," I said, retrieving plates from the cabinet. "I know," Diana replied, placing the pastries on the counter. "That's why I did." We ate in companionable silence, the sweetness of the cinnamon rolls a stark contrast to the bitter taste the lawsuit had left in my mouth. Diana didn't push for conversation, didn't demand I process my feelings aloud. She simply sat with me in the aftermath, a steady presence amid the wreckage. "Do you remember," she said finally, "in second grade, when Tommy Rogers stole your lunch money for a week straight?" The memory surfaced slowly. "You confronted him on the playground." Diana nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. "I was terrified. He was twice my size. But I couldn't stand watching him hurt you day after day." "You got a black eye," I recalled. "And you spent the rest of the year sharing your lunch with me." Diana met my gaze. "Some people are worth fighting for, Fiona. You've always been one of them. Even when the fight is with your own sister." Her words penetrated the protective numbness I'd wrapped around myself. I keep thinking I should feel victorious. Instead, I just feel hollow. "That's grief," Diana said gently. "You're mourning the sister you deserved to have." The truth of her assessment brought fresh tears to my eyes. What if she's right? What if I ruined her life? "Vanessa made choices," Diana reminded me. "Choices that hurt you deeply. Holding her accountable isn't ruining her life, it's refusing to let her ruin yours." Before I could respond, my phone rang, an unknown number. Diana raised an eyebrow as I hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Harlow?" A male voice, unfamiliar. "This is Detective Morgan with the City Police. We have a situation involving your sister, Vanessa Harlow. She's been taken into custody." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Ms. Harlow attempted to break into your apartment last night. The building security detained her until officers arrived. She appeared intoxicated and was making threats." Vanessa had come to my home? While I slept? The violation sent a chill down my spine. "What kind of threats?" I asked, Diana's concerned face swimming in my peripheral vision. "According to the security guard, she was shouting that she would make you pay, that you'd regret taking everything from her. She had a knife in her possession." The world tilted slightly. A knife. My sister had come to my home with a knife. "We need you to come down to the station to make a statement," the detective continued. "And to discuss whether you want to pursue charges." After I hung up, Diana drove me to the police station, the revelation of Vanessa's actions hanging heavily between us. The detective met us in the lobby, a weathered man with kind eyes that had seen too much human failing. "Your sister is still in holding," he explained as he led us to an interview room. "She's been charged with attempted breaking and entering, public intoxication, and making terroristic threats. The DA will determine whether to add attempted assault with a deadly weapon. Can I see her? The question surprised even me as it left my lips. Detective Morgan studied my face. Are you sure that's wise, Ms. Harlow? No, I admitted. But I need to. Diana squeezed my hand. I'll be right here. Vanessa sat at a metal table in an interview room, her designer clothes from the courthouse replaced by an orange jumpsuit. Her makeup was smeared, her hair disheveled. She looked small, diminished by the harsh fluorescent lighting. She lifted her head as I entered, her eyes bloodshot. Come to gloat? I took the seat across from her, placing my hands flat on the cold metal. Why did you come to my apartment, Vanessa? Why do you think? Her laugh was brittle, fractured. You took everything from me. I took back what was mine, I corrected quietly. Money you stole through an elaborate lie about having the same cancer that killed our mother. Do you have any idea how cruel that was? She looked away. I needed the money. For a car. For a fresh start, she snapped, her gaze returning to mine, blazing with a familiar fire. That car was my ticket to a new life, away from the debts, away from the mess I've made. You couldn't let me have even that, could you? Perfect Fiona, always doing the right thing, always judging me. This isn't about judgment, Vanessa. It's about accountability. Easy for you to say. You've always had everything together, the steady job, the nice apartment, the savings account. You don't know what it's like to struggle. The unfairness of her assessment stole my breath for a moment. I worked for everything I have. Nothing was handed to me. You were Mom's favorite, Vanessa continued as if I hadn't spoken. Even when she was dying, she asked for you. I was there, I said, the old wound reopening. You weren't. You were too busy with your life to come home when she needed you. Vanessa's eyes glistened. I couldn't watch her die. Not like that. So I watched alone. The silence stretched between us, filled with the weight of our shared history and divergent paths. What were you going to do if you'd gotten into my apartment? I asked finally. The security guard said you had a knife. Vanessa's gaze dropped to her hands. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking clearly. Would you have hurt me? She didn't answer immediately, and her hesitation was answer enough. I don't know, she whispered finally. I was so angry. The admission hung in the air between us, the final severing of whatever tenuous connection had remained. The detective wants to know if I'm pressing charges, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. For the break-in attempt. The threats. Vanessa's eyes widened, real fear flickering across her features. Fiona, please. I'm sorry. I was drunk and stupid. You came to my home with a weapon, Vanessa. I wasn't really going to use it. I just wanted to scare you. I stood, unable to bear the sight of her pleading face any longer. I'll tell the detective I need time to consider my options. As I turned to leave, Vanessa called after me, her voice breaking. Fiona, wait. Please. I can't go to prison. I paused at the door, not turning around. You should have thought of that before you decided to threaten my life. Back in the lobby, Diana took one look at my face and enfolded me in a tight embrace. I stood stiffly in her arms, too numb to return the gesture. What did you decide? She asked when she released me. I don't know yet, I admitted. Part of me wants her to face consequences for this too. Another part. Remember, she's your sister, Diana finished softly. I nodded, exhaustion settling over me like a heavy blanket. Why couldn't she just repay the money? Why did it have to escalate to this? Detective Morgan approached, his expression carefully neutral. Ms. Harlow, we need to know if you're pressing charges. Your sister has priors, mostly misdemeanors, but it establishes a pattern of behavior. The DA will take that into account. Priors? The revelation shouldn't have surprised me, but somehow it did. What kind of priors? Petty theft, check fraud, a DUI last year. He hesitated. And a domestic violence charge filed by an ex-boyfriend that was later dropped. Each offense was another brick in the wall separating me from the sister I thought I knew. I need to think about it, I said finally. Can I let you know tomorrow? He nodded, handing me his card. Call this number when you decide. In the meantime, we'll keep her here. Diana drove me home in silence, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Press charges against my own sister? Or let her walk away from another consequence, potentially to escalate her behavior further? Whatever you decide, Diana said as we pulled up to my building, I'll support you. I managed a weak smile. I know. Thank you. My apartment felt emptier than usual as I moved through the rooms, checking windows and deadbolts with newfound vigilance. The knowledge that Vanessa had intended to break in, perhaps to harm me, had transformed my sanctuary into a space of potential danger. I poured a glass of wine and settled on the couch, trying to quiet my racing thoughts. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. Do you want me to stay with you tonight? I hesitated, then replied, I'll be okay. Need some time to think. Thank you for everything today. As I sipped my wine, my gaze fell on a photo album I'd tucked away on the bottom shelf of my bookcase. I hadn't opened it in years, but something compelled me to retrieve it now. The leather cover was dusty, the pages slightly yellowed with age. Inside were fragments of a childhood shared with Vanessa, gap-toothed smiles at the beach, Christmas mornings in matching pajamas, birthday parties with identical cake-smeared grins. When had it changed? When had the sisterly bond fractured into competition, then resentment, then this toxic cycle of manipulation and betrayal? There was no single moment I could pinpoint, just a gradual erosion of trust, a slow poisoning of what should have been one of life's most enduring relationships. I lingered on a photo of us as teenagers, arms slung around each other's shoulders at a family barbecue. Vanessa's smile was genuine, her eyes clear and bright. Before the drugs, before the lying became pathological, before she'd built her entire identity around taking the easy way out. My phone rang, another unknown number. Warily, I answered. Fiona Harlow? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Yes? This is Dr. Amanda Ross from Centerpoint Recovery. I'm calling about your sister, Vanessa. I sat up straighter. What about her? She's given us permission to contact you. Vanessa has expressed interest in our rehabilitation program. It's a 6-month intensive treatment for addiction and behavioral health issues. We're calling to verify some information for her application. I closed the photo album, confused. I don't understand. Vanessa is currently in police custody. A pause. Ah, I see. We received her application yesterday, before the incident. She didn't mention that complication. Yesterday. Before she'd shown up at my apartment with a knife. Vanessa had been applying to rehab. What kind of program is it? I asked, a strange mix of hope and skepticism swirling in my chest. Comprehensive addiction treatment, cognitive behavioral therapy, life skills training. It's intensive and highly structured. Most importantly, it includes accountability components for making amends to those harmed by the patient's actions. And she applied voluntarily? Yes. According to our intake notes, she was quite insistent about needing help. Dr. Ross hesitated. Ms. Harlow, I can't share details of your sister's application due to confidentiality, but I can tell you that she seems genuinely motivated to change. After we hung up, I sat motionless on the couch, the photo album open on my lap, the revelation about Vanessa's rehab application complicating an already complex situation. Had she really wanted to change? Or was this another manipulation, a preemptive strategy to garner sympathy if her theft was discovered? And if she had been sincere about seeking help, what had triggered her drunken, vengeful appearance at my apartment? The court verdict? The loss of the car? Or something deeper, the public exposure of her deception, perhaps? I closed my eyes, massaging my temples against the headache building there. What was the right path forward? Press charges and potentially send Vanessa to prison, closing the door on whatever fragile possibility of rehabilitation existed? Or give her one more chance, knowing her history of betrayal, the devastating impact of her lies, the terrifying reality that she'd come to my home with a weapon? The decision weighed on me through a sleepless night. By morning, I'd made up my mind. Detective Morgan's voice was neutral when I called. You've decided, then? Yes, I said, my own voice steadier than I felt. I won't be pressing additional charges. But I have conditions. Ms. Harlow, that's not how this works. You either press charges or you don't. I understand that. But I've learned that my sister applied to a rehabilitation program before her incident. I'd like to explore the possibility of diversion into treatment rather than incarceration. A long pause. That would be up to the DA and the judge. And it would depend on her willingness to plead guilty to at least some of the charges. Can you help me navigate that process? I asked. Another pause. I can put you in touch with the right people. No guarantees, though. Thank you, I said, relief washing through me. That's all I'm asking for. The next weeks were a blur of meetings, with the district attorney, with Vanessa's public defender, with the judge assigned to her case. Diana accompanied me to each one, a steadfast presence as I advocated for a solution that would hold Vanessa accountable while offering her a path to recovery. You don't owe her this, Diana reminded me one evening as we left the courthouse. After everything she's done, you'd be justified in walking away. I know, I said, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of amber and gold. But I need to know I did everything I could. Even if it doesn't work. Even if she doesn't change, Diana corrected gently. Even then. The day of Vanessa's hearing arrived with a clarity of purpose I hadn't expected to find. I sat in the courtroom, hands folded in my lap, as she was led in wearing the same orange jumpsuit, though she looked marginally better than she had in the holding cell, clearer-eyed, more present. Her gaze found mine, a question in her expression. The judge reviewed the charges, the evidence, the recommendation from the DA based on my input and Vanessa's agreement to seek treatment. Ms. Harlow, the judge addressed Vanessa directly, you've been given an extraordinary opportunity here. Your sister has advocated for diversion despite the serious nature of your actions. Do you understand the gravity of that choice? Vanessa nodded, her voice small but steady. Yes, Your Honor. You will complete the 6-month inpatient rehabilitation program at Centerpoint. You will adhere to all conditions of your probation for 3 years following your release. You will make restitution for the money you fraudulently obtained from your sister. And you will maintain absolute no contact with her unless she explicitly initiates communication. Is that clear? Yes, Your Honor. The judge's gaze was piercing. If you violate any of these conditions, you will serve the full sentence for all charges. 5 years. No early release. Vanessa swallowed visibly. I understand. Furthermore, the judge continued, you will write a letter of apology to your sister, acknowledging the harm you've caused. Not as a condition of your sentencing, but as a first step toward making amends. With the bang of the gavel, it was done. Vanessa would go to rehab, not prison. She would have a chance to rebuild her life, to confront the demons that drove her destructive behavior. Whether she would take that chance remained to be seen. As she was led away, Vanessa turned to look at me one last time. She mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." I nodded once, neither accepting nor rejecting her gratitude. This wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It was simply a choice to leave the door cracked open rather than slammed shut. Outside the courtroom, Diana wrapped an arm around my shoulders. You okay? I think so, I said, surprised to find it was true. I did what I could. The rest is up to her. And what about you? Diana asked as we descended the courthouse steps into the bright afternoon. What now? I considered the question, feeling the weight of the past months begin to lift slightly. Now? I start rebuilding my savings. One day at a time. Diana smiled. One day at a time. I like that. Want to start with lunch? I'm buying. As we walked toward our favorite cafe, I felt a strange sense of peace settling over me. The pain of Vanessa's betrayal hadn't vanished, nor had the wariness born from years of manipulation. But I'd found my own path forward, one based not on blind trust or bitter resentment, but on clear-eyed compassion and firm boundaries. The healing would take time. For Vanessa, if she was sincere in her desire to change. For me, as I processed the aftermath of her deception. For our relationship, if it could ever be repaired. But time, at least, was something we both had now. And perhaps, in time, the wounds might begin to mend. My apartment felt different when I returned that evening, not the violated space I'd perceived after learning of Vanessa's attempted break-in, nor the lonely refuge it had become in the aftermath of her betrayal. It felt like mine again, a place where I could breathe, think, begin anew. I opened the windows, letting the spring air circulate through rooms that had grown stale with anxiety and grief. Then I cleared a space on my dining table and pulled out my laptop. $20,000. The sum that had catalyzed this entire ordeal now represented a goal, a new beginning. I opened a fresh spreadsheet and began plotting a savings plan, allocating portions of my salary, identifying areas where I could cut expenses. It would take time to rebuild what I'd lost, but the task felt invigorating rather than daunting. A week later, a letter arrived from Centerpoint Recovery, Vanessa's handwriting on the envelope, her words inside carefully crafted in the structured environment of rehabilitation. I left it unopened on my counter for 3 days, not yet ready to face whatever justifications or pleas it might contain. On the 4th day, I finally broke the seal. Dear Fiona, the counselors here say I should start with complete honesty, so here it is. I'm terrified of writing this letter. Terrified of admitting how deeply I've hurt you. Terrified of facing the person I've become. I lied to you about having cancer. I used our mother's illness, the most painful chapter of our lives, as a tool to manipulate you. There's no excuse for that cruelty. None. The money was for the car, yes. But the car wasn't just a luxury purchase. It was part of a plan to escape, from debt collectors, from an abusive relationship I haven't told you about, from the mess I've made of my life. I thought I could outrun my problems. I was wrong. I was planning to apply to Centerpoint before the court date. I'd hit rock bottom in ways you don't know about. But when the judge ruled against me, when I lost the car, my escape route, I snapped. The alcohol made it worse. I don't clearly remember coming to your apartment that night, but I know I was in a blind rage. The thought that I might have hurt you haunts me. That's not who I want to be. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I haven't earned it. I'm just trying to be honest about what happened and why. The program here is teaching me that recovery starts with truth, however ugly it might be. Thank you for giving me this chance. I don't deserve it, but I'm determined to make the most of it. Your sister, Vanessa. P.S. I will repay every cent I stole from you. It might take time, but I give you my word. I read the letter twice, searching for the manipulative undertones I'd grown accustomed to finding in Vanessa's communications. But the words seemed different this time, raw, unvarnished, without the emotional tripwires designed to evoke guilt or pity. Was this the beginning of real change? Or another performance, calibrated to the audience of rehabilitation counselors and legal obligations? I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer. Time would tell. Months passed. Spring bloomed into summer, summer faded into fall. I received quarterly updates from Centerpoint, brief, clinical assessments of Vanessa's progress. She was engaged in the program. She was doing the work. She was, by all accounts, committed to her recovery. I sent no response to her letter, nor to the monthly updates she began sending after the first 3 months of treatment. Each message was similarly straightforward, no dramatic declarations, no excessive self-flagellation, just simple accounts of her daily routine, the challenges she was facing, the insights she was gaining. And always, at the end, an affirmation of her intent to make amends, with no expectation of reply. In October, 7 months after the courthouse confrontation, I received another call from Centerpoint. Ms. Harlow? This is Dr. Ross. I'm calling to inform you that your sister has completed the rehabilitation program and will be released next week. I absorbed this news quietly, uncertain how to respond. Thank you for letting me know. Vanessa has made remarkable progress, Dr. Ross continued. She's secured transitional housing through our community support program and has a job lined up with one of our partner employers. That's good to hear. She's also been working with our financial counselors to develop a structured repayment plan for the money she owes you. She was quite insistent about making that a priority. A gentle autumn breeze rustled the curtains as I digested Dr. Ross's news. The repayment plan, I said finally, what does it entail? Small monthly installments, Dr. Ross explained. Vanessa understands it will take several years to repay the full amount. She's committed to sending her first payment immediately after receiving her first paycheck. After we disconnected, I wandered to my kitchen window, watching golden leaves spiral down from the maple tree outside. Vanessa would be back in the world soon. The invisible barrier of institutional walls that had kept us safely separated would dissolve. 2 days later, an envelope arrived containing a formal repayment agreement drafted by Centerpoint's financial counselors, along with a handwritten note from Vanessa. I'm not asking to see you or speak to you. I know I haven't earned that yet. I just want you to know that I'm committed to this repayment plan. It's not about the money, it's about showing you, through actions rather than words, that I understand the gravity of what I did. I signed the agreement and mailed it back without adding a message of my own. The first payment arrived exactly as promised, a cashier's check for a modest sum, but symbolically significant. I deposited it immediately, updating my savings spreadsheet with this first increment toward restoration. Diana brought wine to celebrate the milestone. "Are you going to contact her?" she asked, refilling our glasses. I traced the rim of my wineglass thoughtfully. "Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. I need to see a pattern, not just a gesture." "Fair enough," Diana nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Trust has to be rebuilt brick by brick." As winter settled over the city, monthly payments continued to arrive without fail. Sometimes they came with brief notes, never asking for response, never pushing for reconciliation, just small windows into Vanessa's continuing journey. I read each one carefully, searching for signs of the old manipulative patterns, but finding instead a consistency that was entirely new. Perhaps someday, when enough bricks had been laid in the foundation of this tentative new trust, I might write back. Perhaps someday, we might even rebuild something resembling sisterhood. But for now, this delicate dance of accountability and cautious hope was enough, one step at a time, one payment at a time, one day at a time. In the quiet sanctuary of my apartment, watching snow begin to fall outside my window, I realized that true healing isn't about erasing the wounds of betrayal. It's about learning to carry them without letting them determine your path forward. The phone sat silent beside me. I wasn't ready to dial Vanessa's number. Not yet. But for the first time, I could imagine a day when I might be.